What if I told you that the very lens in your camera, the glasses you wear, and the scientific method that drives every discovery today all trace back to a Muslim scientist who lived over 1,000 years ago? He was centuries ahead of Newton, long before Galileo, and laid the foundation for how science works today. Yet his name has been erased from most textbooks, his ideas claimed by others, and his genius nearly forgotten by history. Today we uncover the thrilling legacy of Ibn al-Haytham, the father of modern optics, the pioneer of experimental science, and a symbol of how the Islamic Golden Age lit the path for modern civilization. For centuries, the story of science has been told through a Eurocentric lens. We hear about Galileo, Newton, and Einstein, and rightly so, but somewhere along the way, the torchbearers of knowledge from the Islamic world were cast into the shadows. A whole era, the Islamic Golden Age, which spanned from the 8th to the 14th century, is often reduced to a footnote. This was a time when the Muslim world was the epicenter of scientific, philosophical, and medical innovation. Scholars like Al-Khwarizmi, father of algebra, Ibn Sina, father of early medicine, and Ibn Rushd, champion of rational philosophy, were producing works that shaped the very foundation of Western science, but few were as revolutionary and as forgotten as Ibn al-Haytham. Born in 965 AD in Basra, modern-day Iraq, Ibn al-Haytham was a brilliant polymath. His journey to greatness wasn't easy. He lived under a turbulent political regime and had to feign madness to avoid execution under the Fatimid Caliphate in Egypt. But in that forced solitude, under house arrest, he wrote one of the most influential scientific books in history, Kitab al-Manazir, the Book of Optics. Before Ibn al-Haytham, the understanding of light and vision was dominated by Greek thinkers like Ptolemy and Euclid, who incorrectly believed that the eye emitted rays to perceive objects. Ibn al-Haytham flipped this theory on its head. Through rigorous experiments, he proved that vision occurs when light rays reflect off objects and enter the eye. He built experimental setups involving dark rooms, camera obscuras, where light passed through small holes, forming inverted images on the opposite wall. Sound familiar? That's the blueprint for the modern camera, but it didn't stop there. He analyzed lenses, mirrors, refraction, and reflection in extraordinary detail. His work laid the foundation for everything from eyeglasses and telescopes to microscopes and modern photography. What made Ibn al-Haytham's approach unique wasn't just his conclusions, it was his method. At a time when knowledge was largely based on Greek texts and philosophical speculation, he demanded proof through experimentation. He emphasized observation, hypothesis, testing, repetition, verification. Sound familiar again? That's the scientific method, formalized hundreds of years before Francis Bacon or Galileo. He once wrote, "The duty of the man who investigates the writings of scientists, if learning the truth is his goal, is to make himself an enemy of all that he reads. He should attack it from every side. He should also suspect himself as he performs his critical examination of it, so that he may avoid falling into either prejudice or leniency." This is the language of a true scientist, centuries ahead of his time. Ibn al-Haytham's work was translated into Latin in the 12th century under the name Al-Hazan, and his ideas quietly shaped the European Renaissance. Thinkers like Roger Bacon, Kepler, Leonardo da Vinci, and even Galileo Galilei referenced or were influenced by his ideas. But over time, His name was removed and the credit was slowly absorbed into European narratives. So why isn't he a household name like Newton? Several reasons. The fall of the Islamic Golden Age led to stagnation and loss of manuscripts. European translators often Latinized names or didn't attribute sources. Later, colonial and Eurocentric narratives omitted non-Western contributions to science, but today we reclaim that legacy from the lenses in our phones to the principles in our physics labs. Ibn al-Haytham's vision lives on. More importantly, his method of thinking, skeptical, experimental, humble, remains at the heart of all modern scientific endeavour. The world owes a great debt to Muslim scholars like Ibn al-Haytham. It's time we rewrite the narrative and give credit where it's long overdue. Have you heard of other forgotten figures who shaped history? Drop their names in the comments. I'll explore them in future videos. Let's build a community that celebrates truth, diversity, and curiosity. Share this video with someone who still believes the myth that science started in Europe. Subscribe if you believe it's time to rediscover the brilliance of the Muslim world and beyond. Stay tuned for more eye-opening stories that prove the past is far more connected than we've been taught.